Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmitz_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmitz.
Welcome to it. Great to have of the baseball team already making their way out west. It's a road trip for me tomorrow out to South Denver and then Durango, Colorado for little Southwest Baseball Wood Bat Tournament. So Elijah will be driving the bus Thursday and Friday, back in with you on the weekend edition. We got plenty to talk about here today. We'll spend time with Mike Babcock from Hail Varsity in about 20 minutes. We'll stream with Babbers on Facebook Live and Twitter, get his take on some Nebraska football topics. U.S. Open underway tomorrow. Mike Schuchart, Wilderness Ridge. He has played in the U.S. Open. Get his take on the field and the fight between the PGA and the Live Tour. Gary Barnett, a day early, get his thoughts on the entitlement factor that has hurt some big-time teams in college football. Well, how do you shake that entitlement issue? And when I think of entitlement, sorry, Bevo, but you come to mind first and foremost. And you have a big-time entitlement issue in college football because a lot of kids come in told how great they are. That's not new. That's not different, but it's different today because there's some zeros behind how much you're measuring greatness with NIL and, of course, some portal realities. So we'll get there. Some injured Huskers that need to bounce back and be factors for 2022. So we'll get there. A Jock Doc as well before we say goodbye. Numbers to dial up, get in at 466-3776, 466-3776, 800-825-5865. We've got, I think Coach Brett has cracked his first beer. He's out in Kearney at one of our favorite spots, Cunningham's on the Lake, as he's making his trek west to Denver. So he's all sorts of fired up listening on 1460. So interesting rundown here. Stuart Mandel of The Athletic always does his hierarchy of college football every 4 or 5 years. And as much as I liked Game of Thrones, Elijah, were you big into the medieval terminology?
Yeah, I was actually. You can change it up all you want.
No, that's fine.
Well, that's my favorite period of history.
Yours is the medieval, the Black Plague era?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Well, I always so in recent years there's been a bigger push to move away from strictly European history. If we're honest, European history during that time, during like Dark Age, is pretty boring. But world history as a whole, when you get into the Middle East and you get into China, sure. And if you take the world as a whole, it's much more interesting.
Okay. Well put. I just never got into... You didn't go to, like, fake battles and stuff, did you?
No. I've been to one Civil War reenactment, but that's not from the era.
Okay. No, it's not. But you went to one of those, huh?
Very cool.
Okay. Did you dress up, or did you
No, definitely not. It was, like, middle school era, and they had, like, a whole camp set up, and all the reenactors are sitting in there living like they're living in the 1860s. Yeah. In their camp, explaining how camp life worked, and they all went to a battle and faked like they were dying. Yeah, I mean, you got shot by a ball the size of $2 silver, and there was no remedy. Oh, they'd cut off your arm and call it good, and then you die of gangrene later.
You die of the amputation. You should have just kind of rubbed some dirt on the gunshot. So I'm going to switch it up because this is more my terminology. Instead of kings and barons and knights and peasants, I'm going to go mafia terminology, okay? That's the boss, the underboss, soldiers, and then those guys that aren't made that are associates, peasants and associates is the link there. Kings and bosses, underboss and barons, knights and soldiers. And are there programs the last, say, 7 to 10 years that have earned you as a college football fan, you as a Nebraska fan, that's earned your respect? Another big Mafia point of emphasis, the respect card. And I think, to me, I'll be honest with you, I think there's like 2 or 3 teams that just, for the life of me, I don't get why they've not been good or they haven't won more for a long, long time. Georgia, Texas, UCLA. Okay, I look at those 3 schools and I'm like, how are you guys titleless for years? And I know Texas won a title in 2005, and I know Georgia just won a national championship and played for another. So once a Saban disciple got down between the hedges, things turned around. But forever, and I think Mark Richt was a good coach. I thought Terry Donahue was a good coach. But the best they could ever do is eke out a 10-2, and that's still a great season. But with all the talent and all the NFL, Jim Mora had no problem beating Nebraska when he was at UCLA. Jim Mora had no problem sending guys to the first round. Jim Mora had a Pac-12 problem. Couldn't win a league. Couldn't get to a Rose Bowl. Right? It was Foster Farms and Holiday Bowls. And and that's why he's not there anymore. And so when a program moves on and sees a ceiling, despite winning 8, 9, 10 games a year, you can kind of listen to it after a while. It's either going to step way, way back or, look, by now he would have gotten over the hump. Texas is to the entitlement point. We'll hear more from Gary Barnett on this, but you can act like you own it, but you better back up your bravado. And Texas just hasn't seemed to do that because they're always, all right, time to make a change already. Look at Coach Herman, right? I mean, there was like a race to get Tom Herman from Houston, and he got 3 years, including a 10-win season and a Sugar Bowl victory over Georgia, and it didn't happen. But when I think of teams that have underachieved, when we get into this hierarchy of college football, those are my 3. It's UCLA, it's Texas, Miami could be talked about, but who's earned your respect? Who's lost your respect? And Nebraska right now, based on the rankings from Stuart Mandel, like your boss of all bosses, your emperor is Alabama. Totally agree with that. The championships they've won, the assistants they've lost, the NFL talent they've produced, the process is a flat out crazy machine. You have your underbosses / barons and kind of your other kings of college football. Clemson is still there. Interested to see how they bounce back. LSU's not far removed. Do you count Michigan? Do you count Michigan as one of the kings of college football? Historically and brand-wise, yes, that's part of this equation for Stewart. But their first real wow season was last year. And that's some recency. Notre Dame has been really good. They've been to the college football playoff twice. It's been a long, long time since that 4-8 season. And they played for a national championship, I think, in 2012. So Notre Dame, we'll see if they maintain that. Ohio State's been great. They have been great. They've played for championships. They won a championship. They beat Alabama on the way to a title, and they did it with backup quarterbacks, which is crazy to think about.
And I'd put them
above Michigan.
If they were to make 2 or 3 college football playoffs the next 5 years and win 1 or 2 of them,
they got to win 1, don't you think?
But they might be in line to be elevated up to the boss level in the next edition coming 5 years from now.
Bama's better take a step back.
One of the two.
If
Ohio State has another run of the next 5 years like they've had over the past 5 to 10, you could make an argument to throw Ohio State in there with the bosses of the college football. You'd have a southern boss and a northern boss.
Sure. You can have 4 families.
You
5
can.
families. Here's the other thing. I think for Ohio State to do that, Ohio State needs to get and they're really good, so this sounds crazy, but they need to they couldn't run the football, right? They wanted to live and win throwing the football in that blizzard against Michigan. Didn't work. Had Michigan beat them. They ran the football. It was power football. Ohio State, because of their insane receiver talent, won and outclassed you throwing the football. Good luck. And I know that's how football's drifted. It's more pass happy. It's more aerial versus ground and pound. And you even see that in the NFL. You still have 1,000-yard rushers, but it's a pass-first league. It is. I think for Ohio State to make the move, and they've had really good running backs, they're going to have to get back to being able to run the football. And they did not do that well enough in horrible conditions against Michigan. They're going to have to run the football when the other team knows they're going to run the football. Alabama can do that. Alabama has been able to do that. Oklahoma, we'll see if Oklahoma stays on this pedestal of just right under like emperor title. Oklahoma's been to the playoffs. Oklahoma's won a lot of conference championships. Oklahoma's done pretty well in bowl games. Oklahoma's done well with draft picks. Oklahoma lost their dude. He's now at USC. What does Brent Venables do? Texas, does Texas still, because of brand and eyeballs, do they still rate as one of the top tier? Are they still in that top tier of college football programs for you? They are not for me. And this isn't me hating Texas because they're Texas. It's me saying, dude, you've had 100 coaches and you've almost gone 2 decades since a championship. To me, no. They are down on that second tier. Brand-wise, no, but what their program really is, yeah, absolutely, they're a second-tier football team. Same with USC. Mm-hmm. It's been a long time since they've been worth a damn.
Both of those, just look at the schools from 5 years ago from the same list who got demoted. Florida State, Miami, and Penn State. I put Texas and USC down with those schools in terms of relevance in the national scene and their relative power within the college football world. I put Texas and USC down there. I mean, sure, they have the money, they have the brand exposure, but the wins have not followed. And I think that's a big part of being powerful in the college football world. So I would have demoted Texas and USC out of this.
Absolutely. Auburn and Florida now are second-tier programs. Iowa has made the jump from third tier to second tier. Nebraska stays in the second tier despite going on 5 years and no postseason. Oregon's fallen back a little bit.
So, but is this the soldiers tier of the mafia hierarchy?
This is the soldiers tier. We just went over the underbosses. Your boss of all bosses, Bama. Is Nebraska still a knight or a soldier in the mafia world? Are they still in that third tier? Based on brand, yes, they are.
And if we're throwing Texas in this tier, I think you could throw Nebraska in this tier because
a lot of parallels.
This is the tier where I go, okay, the wins and losses haven't been there, but you still have the brand exposure. That's why you still earn your way into this tier here.
Tennessee and A&M, right, are in this tier. Sparty and Wisconsin. Of this tier, we talk Auburn and Florida State and Iowa, the U.
Iowa just got promoted into this tier this year.
They did. I think when it comes to who can crawl back up, who can elevate, man, I don't like how things are going for Auburn's head coach. I mean, the guy had an investigation. Florida's had too much turnover. Maybe Napier's the answer. Maybe Cristobal is the answer to restore the U. Maybe Mel Tucker's more than a one-hit wonder. Jimbo and A&M, I mean, they'll either rise or die, right? It goes one way or the other, because I don't know that A&M fan will be super patient, and he's already been there 5 years, going 8-4 every year. They need to make a jump. I think James Franklin's window is closed. They had a 3-year window where they were trading punches with Ohio State and got them once. I think that window's closed, and I think Michigan and Michigan State, I think Sparty's in better position to rise up than to see Penn State make another run at a Big Ten title. Who knows with Tennessee, quite honestly. And it's really do or die now or never for Nebraska. And say Nebraska gets back on track to a good bowl game, a respectable bowl game. They finished first or second in the West or tied for second in the West, and they're playing an SEC team right? That can break the hex, so to speak, for Nebraska, and maybe you get some positive momentum there. Is Wisconsin just going to be in purgatory for a while? And it's a good purgatory, going 9-3, 9-4 every year. But, man, they were not that far removed from a 12-1 season. The schedule broke right for them. Are they going to get through to a college football playoff ever? They have elite defense. They don't have a difference maker at quarterback. They've got incredible running back play with Allen, as there's a lot of expectations for him, and you think they're always going to be pretty good on the defensive line. Quarterback's what holds them back.
I mean, for me, as long as their offense is stuck in 2002, they're never going to rise up and make it to a college football playoff.
Yeah, so...
Unless they just have a freaking dominant offense one year that's still just running the ball, pounding the rock. But I just don't see that happening in today's college football world.
Some knights/soldiers of the college football world. You have BYU that's been pretty good, Kansas State. Minnesota just doesn't have enough wow, but they've been a really good football program. Oklahoma State, I think, should be higher than they are. And then the associates / the peasants of college football.
I'd call these the people, the small business owners who are getting racketeered.
Yes. You can either pay us for your protection or we'll break your windows. Purdue just won 9 games. They're apparently the unwashed.
Calling all Storm Chasers fans. A team you never get to see is making their way to Werner Park June 7th through the 12th, and that's the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs. It's the first meeting between the two franchises, and there's plenty going on that week. June 9th is the Chasers Community Celebration for Pride Night, presented by PayPal. June 10th is What If Night, where the Storm Chasers will change their name to the Hogs. A little backstory, that was a previous Omaha team and was a potential name change when the franchise was looking to rebrand. It's a battle of pigs versus hogs. You can't have a name change without new jerseys too. Specialty jerseys will be worn that night, and of course, they'll be autographed and auctioned off. Snag your favorite player June 10th and then run it back on the 11th. It's Salute to Corn Night, presented by the Nebraska Corn Board. It's a celebration of all things corn. Corn on the jerseys, corn in the stands. Trust me, this game will be amazing. See you there.
And we're back.
Fellas, think we could listen to the radio
on Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Yes! That's awesome!
Thanks for spending time. It's Hail Varsity, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Historian, author, Hall of Famer, Mr. College Football, Mike Babcock with us at MD Babs on Twitter. We're streaming with Mike. He's at his home football office, ESPN Lincoln, Facebook, ESPN Lincoln, Twitter. Babbers, how we doing?
Hey, I'm doing fine. I'm just trying to figure out who Elijah's for in this NHL playoff deal.
He's wearing his Avs gear, and he's he left his Patrick Waugh hockey mask off since we're streaming. That's a big thing, and
I'm sure some people would prefer I covered the mustache.
You keep on combing that thing. You do what you want to do. We're talking tiers of college football and who's been relegated, who's been elevated. A good story by Stuart Mandel. I put a little mafia twist on it. Instead of kings and barons and knights and peasants, I got a mafia fascination. So boss and underboss and soldier, and then associate, Mike. And right now I have Nebraska somewhere between the underboss and soldier region. And Nebraska's pretty much been in witness protection, right? So I'm interested to get your thoughts here. What tier does Nebraska football belong on based on their relevancy, based on their recency, and their impact? There's a lot of different dynamics because Nebraska's brand power, that doesn't expire. It doesn't seem to expire.
I think that's what's keeping Nebraska in the conversation, really, to be honest with you, is Nebraska's image, those national championships under Osborne and then before that Devaney. But so you've got Nebraska kind of between 3 and 4. Is that what it is?
I've got them from a brand standpoint. They're still a 2. If we're going last 5 years, they're probably a peasant or an associate. But if we zoom out a little bit, it wasn't all bad this decade with some 9-win seasons, some 10-win seasons. If you go from 2011 to now, the first half was pretty good, or decent, at least top 25. So I'm not completely writing them off. They've struggled. Texas is also it's kind of a similar comp with. Texas has had a little bit better peaks, but they've also had some really low valleys with their program.
Yeah, Texas always concerns me because I think that Texas, because of the tradition, that's part of it. The same thing as Nebraska, but because of the money and everything that's involved with Texas, it's got its own network and it's affiliated with ESPN, right? So. Mm-hmm. Anytime you're affiliated with ESPN, there's some promotional value to that. SEC gets an advantage from ESPN because of the promotional value of that. And I think that really benefits Texas beyond what Texas has accomplished. But it doesn't take a whole lot for Texas. If Texas wins, it's a little bit like Notre Dame. Notre Dame has that long tradition. And if you have some semblance of success, you're going to get the national response that you have always gotten because there's that perception that goes back a long way for those two programs. But I don't think either one of those programs are I'd put them at the third level, just because, again, perception has put them where they've been in a position to do some things. When you're talking about, we're still talking about voting, right? Mm-hmm. We still pick teams. You don't win your way in. Necessarily, you're picked into the playoffs. And so I think there's an advantage there for both those programs if they have some degree of success. And what success means here is, I guess you can't afford to lose more than one game, maybe two. But they're going to be in that conversation. But I put them down in that third level.
Does Nebraska get the same bounce back if they have a breakthrough?
I don't think immediately Nebraska does. I think Nebraska's got some work to do before it moves back up into that situation because it's been so long since Nebraska. You're right. Under Bo Pelini, Nebraska always won at least 9 games, always played in a bowl game. There were some embarrassing losses during that time, none more embarrassing than the Wisconsin thing in the Big Ten championship game, probably. But I think Nebraska has some work to do to get back in that position because it has not been consistently in the national conversation for about 20 years.
Well, while we're talking,
I think that's what makes it difficult.
While we're talking mafia theme here, I've done some thinking. I think Nebraska is the underboss who went against the direct orders of the boss to sell drugs and got caught. So now they're spending a little 5-year sentence in jail. When they get back, they're going to have to pay some dues to get back to their old underboss spot. But they still have that door open. The boss still likes them.
See, that's a unique mafia story. Babbers, every movie I've seen, and you and I've seen him, you deal, you die in the mafia. I want to go into a point you touched on, Mike, with ESPN. Big Ten media rights are being negotiated right now, and we should know something in the summer as to where the new lucrative deal goes. Is it still tier 1 for Fox and ESPN? If you're the Big Ten, do you walk from ESPN to maybe be that new 2:30 entree for CBS since the SEC's moving to ESPN? You've got an opportunity there to be the new CBS Saturday college football extravaganza, and then also partner up with NBC to go back-to-back with Notre Dame and then the Big Ten game of the week? Or can you afford to walk away or not be as viewed on ESPN? You're not totally going to not be with ESPN in some form or fashion, but man, it's been pretty good for the Big Ten a lot of years with the Saturday night or that 11 o'clock even. Fox Big Noon Kickoff's done really well in its short time. But what's your take on the ESPN relationship? How necessary is it?
Well, in terms of money, the Big Ten's done well, obviously. There's no question about that. The thing that concerns me is with ESPN and the SEC, the SEC network is also affiliated with ESPN, right? I mean, isn't that part of it?
Yeah, I mean, they're one of it's like Fox owning a large portion of the Big Ten network.
Right. And to me, it's not necessarily the game times and the whatever that ESPN provides. It's what ESPN provides in the non-game situations, the talk. There's a promotional element to ESPN. I guess you could call it editorial element to ESPN. I mean, the first letter, the E stands for entertainment, right? So it's not. But I think that there's a value there that influences things. Again, we're talking about the playoffs. It's voting. It's not. You don't win your way in necessarily. You have to be voted in. You have to be picked. It has to do with rankings yet. And I don't know how you would resolve it any other way, other than my lame, constant complaint that if you have to win your conference before you're in the playoffs when you've only got 4 teams, or you make some provision where Notre Dame could get in. But I don't know how you do it any other way. You have to pick them. But ESPN, the promotional value of being involved in ESPN, I think, is really important from that standpoint. But if you're about the money and you can get the good money and you can be affiliated with CBS, that's not all bad.
Well, Mike, we've seen that with NHL in recent years, as I wear my Avs jersey, where they lost their deal with ESPN back in the early 2000s, I believe, and during their time with NBC, their ratings steadily dropped year after year because ESPN wasn't talking about the NHL, so I think we've seen it there. But on the other hand, we also have ESPN's deal with the college football playoff ending in 2025, so there could come a day where ESPN isn't the one holding the selection shows. They aren't the ones that have the college football playoff. It could even go somewhere like Fox. So is it short-sighted to say, well, we can't be or we have to make sure we're on ESPN because of the college football playoff and because of eyes? Because you don't know. In 4 years, ESPN might not be all about college football like they are now because they have the college football playoff.
Yeah, you don't know. I mean, my sense is probably ESPN's going to be in that same position, but maybe I'm wrong about that. I mean, it's a difficult thing because you're signing long-term contracts in these situations, so you're going to probably sign something that's going to carry you beyond that time frame. And researchers that are involved in this know more about it than what I do, but. I still think that ESPN is going to be an influential outlet when it comes to college football. I really believe that.
Mike Babcock's with us, HailVarsity.com and magazine. The 23rd of June, the yearbook party happens at the Hail Varsity Club just in La Vista. Want to see you there for that and get your subscription to the yearbook and Hail Varsity magazine, HailVarsity.com/subscribe. Mike, before we go, I want to get your thoughts on Gabe Ervin, expectations for him. What do you think is possible for him with this running back rotation?
That's interesting because you mentioned about injuries, and I think he's one of those guys that maybe people kind of forgot about a little bit, because you got Yant, you've got Grant coming in, you got Ramir Johnson still, Step. I don't know what fall camp is going to be a very competitive situation at running back, I think. I think we've got a lot to learn about any one of those players being able to step up. And I think somebody has to step up and take that job. You have great depth, and that's a good thing, but somebody has to be your go-to back. Does he have the ability to do that? There's no question he does. But I think you could ask the same of, does Grant have it? Yeah, I think he does. Does Step have it? I think he does. Ramir's got the experience. Does he have it? Yeah. Does Yant have it? Yeah. It's going to be a scramble, I think. And maybe by the end of fall camp, somebody's in the transfer portal. Is that possible? I mean, are you surprised that this many talented backs are still here?
I am not. You've had a lot of potentially talented guys depart just because of how crowded the room was. I think what I feel best about before we say goodbye is a pretty good rotation settled on. The best will emerge, and I think they'll be coached to a high level with Applewhite. I think that'll be. I think that search for a go-to will be fixed, Mike.
But there has to be a go-to, right? I mean, somebody is going to have to emerge if you're going to feel good about that running game. And, of course, it goes back to the offensive line. But somebody has to emerge at running back. Somebody has to be the guy.
Absolutely, with presumably less quarterback run. Mike, we'll check in next week. This was awesome to spend some time and talk some ball. Thanks for a few minutes today.
Thanks for having me, guys. Be safe.
Calling all soccer fans. Union Omaha is back home after an unbelievable showing in the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup round of 16. An upset over Minnesota United? That's our team. So join them when they come home May 28th for Educational Outreach Night, presented by Bellevue University. The Owls will face Northern Colorado Hailstorm FC, and after a couple of road matches, will come back on June 18th to face Greenville Triumph SC. It's also Pride Night. We'll see you there.
He's in his 30s, but sounds like he was born with a stogie in one hand and a brew in the other.
Now, say my name.
It's Schmitty on Hail Varsity Radio.
I got the body of a taut, preteen Swedish boy.
Thanks for spending time. It's Hail Varsity Radio Midweek Edition. We're presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbal. Good to get caught up with Mike Babcock. That interview posted on ESPNLincoln.com, the on-demand section. The podcast part also on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. The entire show will be uploaded for you. All you got to do is subscribe. Appreciate you doing so, as many of you have. And be sure to give us that feedback, good, bad, or ugly. We will absolutely take it. I want to remind you about getting a subscription to Hail Varsity, and do so today. And we've got a promo code for you. And when you check it out, can log on and get that subscription to Hail Varsity. Get $10 off the annual price of $79.99. The code is GBR. GBR is the code. And get that submitted, hailvarsity.com/subscribe, or just go to hailvarsity.com and get it handled that way. We are efforting. One Mike Schuchart will send a text out to Shuey and see if he's available for a few minutes. Always love the U.S. Open. I would love to be a patron at Brookline, the historic course, and see what happens. How's this grab you, Elijah?
Well,
Rory is now the favorite.
Oh, wow.
He has passed Scheffler as far as the betting fave.
Well, I don't bet golf because that's just me throwing my money away. So I don't know how to read that, but I would love to see Rory win one. I was going to say, in the meantime, we could play John Rahm's comments from yesterday about...
yeah, absolutely. Rahm's been very outspoken. We'll talk to Coach Barnett, too, about Rahm. Him and Rahm are the same course down in Scottsdale. Mm-hmm. So here is John Rahm earlier this week.
I do see the appeal that other people see towards the LIV Golf. I do see some of the, how do I put this delicately, points or arguments they can make towards why they prefer it. To be honest, part of the format is not really appealing to me. Shotgun 3 days to me is not a golf tournament, no cut. It's that simple. I want to play against the best in the world in a format that's been going on for hundreds of years, right? So that's what I want to see. And yeah, money is great, but when Kelly and I, this first thing happened, we started talking about it. We're like, will our lifestyle change if I got $400 million? No, it will not change one bit. Truth be told, I could retire right now with what I've made and I've lived a very happy life and not play golf again. So I've never really played the game of golf for monetary reasons. I play for the love of the game, and I want to play against the best in the world. I've always been interested in history and legacy, and right now the PGA Tour has that. There's a meaning when you win the Memorial Championship. There's a meaning when you win Arnold Palmer's event at Bay Hill. There's a meaning when you win LA, Torrey, some of these historic venues, and that to me matters a lot. right? I have, after winning this past U.S. Open, only me and Tiger have won at Torrey Pines, and we're both the golf course that we like, making putts on the 18th hole, right? That's a memory I'm going to have forever that not many people can say. So my heart is with the PGA Tour. That's all I can say. It's not my business or my character to judge anybody who thinks otherwise. And for a lot of people, I'm not going to lie, those next 3-4 years are worth basically their retirement plan they're giving them. It's a very nice compensation to then retire and sail off to the sunset.
So, well put by John Rahm. It is substance and legacy and reckoning and history over champagne and caviar against good talent. I mean, the Live Tour has attracted some wow dudes. Their tournament is lucrative. It's lucrative, and it's funded by bad dudes. Okay? And that's you can have a social stance, you can have a moral stance, and then you can just have a flat out, all right, I'm winning more important accolades. There's more reckoning. There's more legacy with the PGA, and they've been around forever.
I mean, it's the same reason why you don't have these European soccer stars coming over to the MLS and playing in America. You can come make more money in America. You can get better endorsement deals in America. You can live in a great place like L.A. or Miami or New York City and be the talk of the town. But
you're not going against the best.
At the end of the day, you're not going against the best. You're not building your legacy. You build your legacy with World Cups, with Champions Leagues, with going and winning the Premier League, going and winning the Bundesliga, whatever you're going to do. That's how you go build your legacy, and that's what these guys care about. And that's what the PGA Tour is you might not make the same amount of money, but it's going to be your career accolades are going to be made in the PGA, not in this live golf tournament where, sure, you can make a lot of money, but it's not the same.
We'll dive into a little bit more the running back rotation. Give me some NHL. How you feeling about your Avs? And, it's been a while since they've hoisted the cup. And they've been in the playoffs a lot, not recently per se, but, man, for a long time it was...
The Joe Sakic and Forsberg and Hayden.
Yeah, and Waugh. I mean, those were the squads that I knew quite a bit about, and then... Now they're back knocking on the door again.
Well, yeah, the Avalanche hold arguably one of the better moments in Stanley Cup history, where Joe Sakic, before hoisting the cup after they beat the Devils back in 2001, he hands it off to Ray Bourque, a guy who'd been in the league for 20 years.
Traded from Boston, yeah.
Never got a chance to win a cup, and in his final year, he goes and wins a cup with the Avs and gets to hoist the cup, one of the best moments. But that was the last time the Avs have been in the Stanley Cup Finals, was that year. So it's been a while. They're the better team. They've been the best team in the NHL all year long. They're the betting favorites in Vegas over the Tampa Bay Lightning team, but they go up against a different challenge and probably the best goalkeeper in the world in Vasilevsky. They've got a physical experienced team that's been there and done that against them in Tampa Bay as a whole, where Tampa Bay is coming off 2 straight championships. But the Avalanche have the young talent. They have the speed. They have the skill. It's a question of, can they come up and play a very good team and live up to their own expectations. It's been Stanley Cup or bust all year long for this Avalanche team. Now they're here. Is the pressure going to get to them? They don't have many guys at all that have been on this stage. I think they only have one player that's ever played in a Stanley Cup final. So that's the question. It's experience versus, I don't want to say experience versus talent, because Tampa Bay also has talent of their own, but the Avs on paper out-talent them. They have these young superstars. They have the futures of the game on their team. So we'll see what comes of that. I played that a little bit earlier there.
You're good. No, question, I mean, are they going to be in Denver Saturday night?
They are.
Okay. What's that going to run me if I want to go see a Stanley Cup Finals game?
If you want to go lower bowl, you're talking $1,500 to $2,000. If you want to go sit in the upper deck up in the nosebleeds, it'll be $500 to $600.
Okay.
Don't ask me why I've looked into it, because I knew I was never going to make it out there, but I checked.
I'll be there.
If you go, I will be so angry if you're there and I'm
not. What right do you have to soil the Pepsi Center?
The Ball Arena now.
Oh, name change. My fault. We'll wind down hour 1 coming up.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Let's finish up with Mike Schuchart, Wilderness Ridge Golf, and Shuey jumping into the U.S. Open. Thanks for giving us a shout, bud. What's the experience like playing in the Open?
It's incredible. I mean, massively difficult, but it's always fun to play in a major, especially that major. I mean, that's your U.S. Open. That's your United States major. So, and it's just it's fun, but demoralizing at the same time. I mean, the golf course is set up so hard and so difficult that it tests your physical and your mental skills and frustrates you to death. But it's still fun doing it.
Shuey, your thought on Rory? He is the betting favorite over Scheffler. Do you feel Rory this weekend, or who do you like?
I like John Rahm.
Mm-hmm.
I like Justin Rose. So I like to look at guys that are trending. So Justin Rose, obviously trending. He's been playing really well. He's got a game that suits a U.S. Open. Shoffley, he'll be another one that's in there. So it's a ball, man. It's just, you got to have every aspect of your game, man. You got to be able to strike it and keep it in play. You got to have a great short game because the greens are hard and fast and the fairways are narrow with massively long rough. So it's a test of patience. Got to grind it out till the end. So I think you'll see some guys that you haven't heard of be up there. Sam Burns. How about this name? Davis Riley. Anybody ever heard of him?
Just Mike Schuchart.
I definitely haven't.
He's probably played at the course, hasn't he? He's been to Wilderness a few times.
Yeah, maybe.
See, exactly. There's that Wilderness karma coming on, right? I mean,
right.
It's no accident, baby. Mike Schuchart's with us, Wilderness Ridge Golf. Shuey, Phil does what this weekend?
That's going to be interesting. Where he's at, does he play because of all of the negativity that's around him and try to show people up in a sense, or is it overwhelming? It'll be interesting to see the reaction that people have towards Phil. I don't think it'll be super positive with all the stuff that's going on and where he kind of stands on that. So, but guys like that typically like that adversity, and they perform under that adversity. So we'll see how he does.
You mentioned the U.S. Open's test, and I got about 30 seconds. What part of your game has to be best? You listed a lot of them, but what's the most important aspect for this weekend?
It's ball striking. I mean, you have to be a good ball striker because you have to keep the ball in play because the setup is typically so difficult that if your ball is not in play, unlike other golf courses, because they grow the rough out so long and they narrow the fairways that you just start very limited in what you can do from those situations. So a guy that's a really good ball striker, keeps the ball in play, always has a chance because he's not playing from difficult situations where bogeys are very prevalent to happen. So, I mean, you look at your best ball strikers, they always play pretty well at an Open.
Mike Schuchart, Wilderness Ridge Golf. Shuey, we'll check in next week. Always appreciate your time, bud, and we'll check in down the road. Thanks again.
I appreciate it. Got a 2-shot penalty. I was late to my tee time.
You're fine, buddy. No worries. Take care, Shuey. Hey, it's Schmitty. Want to tell you about a fantastic opportunity to work for a rapidly growing company that also enjoys the benefits earned with having competitive, stable history of work over 20 years. FSC. The FSC Edge. It's a leading technology innovator serving governmental agencies. Expert services helping worldwide patent offices meet strict processing and publishing timelines while delivering exceptional quality. They support some of the world's largest patent offices throughout the U.S. and Europe. That includes the European Patent Office, the German Patent and Trademark Office, and the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. The only group of companies worldwide to provide such support to all three of these agencies. Working at FSC, you have a chance to work with fun people with great attitudes and learn about patents. You're not on the phone. You're not customer-facing. It's casual dress. And the work environment, it's a new environment with over $2 million in improvements. You have access to generous benefits packages, company support for health and wellness, and you do impactful work on a national scale. Make a difference. Their team's constantly growing, and they're always looking for new people to join their mission. Check out what's available today at jobs@fsc.com.
Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmitz_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmitz.
Back into it at Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery, into Hour 2. We're switching it up just a bit. We are off to Colorado to see Coach Barnett. No, I'm kidding. The doors would be locked, but we need to talk to Coach today because I'll be on the way to Colorado tomorrow. Coach, how's the week doing?
Week's going well. We had some nice, cool weather come through here, although it's going to be gone by the time you get here. But, yeah, things are going well here.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, your desire to have a beer at a Rockies game Saturday night is what?
Oh, listen, that's top drawer right there. That's a great place to go to a game. I don't know how much of a game you'll see, but it doesn't make any difference. You know, when you go to a baseball park, you're just part of history and nostalgia and baseball. And so, yeah, that's a great place to go. I mean, it's a great stadium, and hopefully you'll get a good game. But yeah, it's a party down there.
Yeah, it's fun, and that's some of the plans for Junior and his team on Saturday. We'll get to some football in a minute. I want to get your thoughts, though, on the U.S. Open. That gets underway tomorrow out in Brookline, Massachusetts. And a thought from what you've seen and read with some of the different press conferences. Of course, John Rahm, pretty impassioned. I loved his soundbite from yesterday. Phil just looks like he's aged a little bit. Rory's been outspoken. And oh, by the way, yeah, it's another major on deck tomorrow. What have you made of golf this week, the drama?
Well, it's, in one way, it's really good for golf. And so it's, I mean, the pandemic alone did more for golf than anything that's ever happened. But now, it's the old any publicity is good, and there's a lot of publicity around golf right now, the LIV and all the things that are being said. It just, for guys in the sports business, sports radio business, it's probably pretty good. You don't have to worry about what you're going to talk about each day. But, yeah, they just keep providing sound bites and hits and, news. So it's pretty cool. I mean, it's interesting. And, I did get a kick out of Rahm, and he is a member of the club that I'm a member of in Arizona, and I got to know him just a very little bit when he first joined and just coming out of ASU, and he's an impassioned Spaniard, man, and Rory sort of seizing the horns right now. He's sort of taken over speaking for the league or for the PGA and for the tour players. And it's sort of good to see that him sort of becoming so mature and being someone that everybody likes to watch and listen to and sort of roots for it out every doggone event. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on. And, I like Justin Thomas in this event. I don't know who you like, but he's playing so well and he's so good in majors. I think he's going to be hard to beat.
Gary Barnett's with us, Hail Varsity Radio, U.S. Open thoughts, some college football thoughts, a couple of interesting stories out, one with Adam Rittenberg at ESPN, and he touched on some programs that are trying to go from good or respectable to the elite level. We spent some time on it yesterday. The Athletic is doing their state of the programs, and, you know, there's some concern down in Texas, and then we look at Athlon in Nebraska the last week, the dreaded anonymous coaches deeming Nebraska the all-get-off-the-bus team. They look tough and imposing, but they'll screw up at some point, so don't worry about it. I mean, that's the word on Nebraska that Frosty and company are trying to change. I want to start with Texas, Coach, and as you look at that situation, as you have Texas poised to move to the SEC, and you have Sark that went 5-7, is Texas and their brass down there, are they on the verge of being too impulsive when it comes to their expectations? And I look at Mac, and I look at kind of the chain of events, Coach, and the coaching changes that Texas has undergone. And, I mean, is Sark in trouble already in year 2, or is it just getting turned up because of how bad year 1 went?
Probably a combination of the two. I think that no one expected Sark to go, 5-7 last year. I mean, and nobody did. Nobody saw that one coming. And I think it's all based on the image that Texas and Texas high school football and the kids who sign with Texas, the persona that it creates. You still have to go back and look at what brought Mac Brown down, and that was basically the entitlement issue. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that ever goes away, and if it does, it only goes away with the fact somebody that's so hard-nosed about it that just creates a culture of toughness, and you either buy in or you don't go. And so I don't know whether that's Sark. I don't know if that's his style. And I frankly sort of think that he's just the next guy in line for an entitlement problem. And Sark has yet to really prove himself out there. And I thought it was a really interesting hire. I know that he went to the Nick Saban School of Rehab, and that should automatically put you in a good position. But I don't know. I think that combination is such that I think he really is probably on the hot seat if he has any kind of a year that's close to what it was last year.
Gary Barnett's with us, Hail Varsity Radio, Colorado, Northwestern, and, of course, Missouri Hall of Famer. Coach, does Nebraska have an entitlement problem?
Oh, I think through the years that's true. I think there's been an entitlement problem. I think that the community, it's one of the things that you get when you have a community and a state that is so supportive of your program that those players reach a status within the state and then the community that can make you and make you feel entitled. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a double-edged sword there. That's what happens in states and programs where it is so important. But that being said, over the last 3 or 4 years, 5 or 6 years, 7 or 8 years, that you think that would have changed a little bit, but you would also think that of Texas. You would think that eventually people would see that that's what the problem is, or not problem, but that's certainly not the solution, and somehow work their way through it. But I think that's always been a bit of an issue there.
How do you deal with it? You mentioned culture of toughness and the double-edged sword. Tell me about your career. Did you ever run up against it at the spots you were at once you got to a certain level?
I've never been in a place where there's entitlement. It's always been an uphill grind, and so I've never experienced that. And I know just talking to coaches that have worked at Nebraska, they've always felt like that's really an issue for them. But it's when you look back at Nebraska and even Texas before problems popped up, is they could run the ball when they needed or wanted to run the football. And that is a level of toughness. And so that, to me, sort of offsets some of that entitlement issue. When you can run the football, and as we're going to go on and talk about Nebraska, and you're going to talk about Mark Whipple, I know a little bit. And I'm just going to say, when you're a team that's tough enough to run the football when you want to run it, then you have a chance. And I think that part of the culture, that part of the inside culture, eliminates or negates some of that entitlement issue.
Tell me about Mark a little bit. You're close with him. His persona, his philosophy, he, to me, seems throwback, and while he's known for passing and getting the best player of the football and really doing wonders at a bunch of different spots and really developing quarterbacks through his career, he seems, when push comes to shove, he wants to be physical with you. Is that fair?
Well, Mark and I are friends. I haven't been in meeting rooms with him,
Sure.
and I haven't been on a staff with him, so I can't really assess that. I know that the good ones that I've been around are going to find a way to, when it gets down to when you have to win a game by running the football, you are tough enough and good enough, and you've got a mentality that when I have to run it and I want to run it, I'm going to run it successfully. And that's usually a culture and a toughness issue. And so I think as I look at everything and as I think how Mark might assess it, or, when Sean Watson was there or some other guys that I've been around, that's the approach they're going to take. And while you can be electric and score points quicker and faster, and you need to have that passing game, and you need to throw when you want to throw. But there comes a time in almost every football game when you have to run a close game, when you have to run the ball, and you have to get first downs, and that means you have to run the ball effectively when you need to run it and when you want to run it. Those are the great teams. And the better teams, I might add. So my guess is whether that announcement's ever made to a staff or ever made to a team, I don't know. But I know deep down inside, most offensive coaches would tell you that.
Gary Barnett's with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Coach, a couple of teams that are on that elite tier discussion point from Rittenberg's article. You have Michigan State and Mel Tucker, and also you have Texas A&M and Miami mentioned that are they're trying to figure out what's next for them, and then Oklahoma State. I want to end and wrap with Sparty and Oklahoma State. Your thoughts on Gundy and what Oklahoma State is going to be? Can they be the best in the Big 12, especially after this Oklahoma-Texas departure?
Absolutely, I think so. It's funny, Mary and I were talking last night about the coaches. We had dinner with Coach DiNardo, and we were just talking about coaches that have been around a long time, and you go back and think of the coaches that have been in that position for the longest time, and Gundy and Ferentz have to be those two guys, but I don't have the whole list in front of me, but you think about how long he's been there, and I know when we played him the first year there, we actually shut him out. But you see what he's done and what he has access to. He's got a major financial supporter. He's in a very, very supportive state. Again, a state without professional sports makes it other than basketball, of course, but it gives you a chance with no pro football, and people are interested and supportive of the sport. He's in a good spot. You lose Texas and you lose Oklahoma. I mean, really, who else is out there that's really going to seize that? Baylor, I don't think so. You just don't have that same culture there. Texas Tech, certainly not. I mean, who's it going to be? So I think they are probably in a position to really take over that conference.
What about Mel Tucker? Is Michigan State a spot that can be 11-2, 12-1? I know D'Antonio had a great run. We're talking top 3, top 5, top 7 in the country, beating Ohio State. He's done it there not long ago, less than 10 years ago. And then Mel went 11-2, and I'm just wondering if Sparty's a one-hit wonder or if there is some staying power where they can compete again with Ohio State and have their way against Michigan. They'd been winning against Michigan up until last year. And they beat them last year, too.
Michigan has been like the way you described Nebraska a few minutes ago. They've found a way to beat themselves, and when it comes to playing that game. But when you think of D'Antonio, what do you think of?
Tough, just grumpy.
There you go. And it's yet to be proven whether Mel Tucker can produce that kind of team. Now, my guess is, I think he probably can, but nobody knows that yet. Now, last year, we don't know. We don't know how good they can be consistently because the running back had such a sensational year. But if they can maintain that, and like I said, I think he probably can after being with Mel for a year. Then I think they are going to be poised to really be a factor in that league for a long time.
Gary Barnett with us. Coach, thanks for a few minutes today.
All right, Chris, great being with you.
Hello, listener. Hey, it's Chris Schmidt with Hail Varsity Radio, and I wanted to let you know about a special deal just for listeners of the Hail Varsity Radio Show podcast. We're offering $10 off the annual subscription price. That means that you can get everything we do. 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all the premium content we produce at HailVarsity.com. Just go to HailVarsity.com/subscribe and enter in the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's HailVarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
Chime in 402-466-ESPN or email the show, Chris@HailVarsity.com. Just try me. Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Good stuff from Gary Barnett. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbal. Elijah's got his Avs gear on. Do you have multiple Avs jerseys, or is this just the same?
This is the only one that fits me currently. I have a couple from my youth that I got as like Christmas presents and whatnot, but they're the old style and they don't even come close to fitting me anymore. So this is the only one I wear.
You keep rocking those hockey sweaters, and don't let anyone give you any trouble about the shirt or the mustache.
Oh, okay, I wasn't, but people give me trouble about that. Like, are you saying something? Like,
no, I'm just letting you know that, you know what?
I walked out of the house feeling confident this morning. I actually, on the way.
Good for you.
On the way over to the radio station this morning, I pull up into the turn lane next to a car that was going straight, and this guy looks over at me and he tells me to roll my window down. I roll my window down and he goes, "Go Avs, baby! Avs in 4!" So Avs fans are everywhere. No one's giving me trouble for this thing.
Good work. You heard from Coach Barnett. The topic of entitlement, and it's all intertwined, isn't it? We talked college football tiers with Stuart Mandel's release. The Kings, the Barons, the Knights, the Peasants of college football, the different tiers. We kind of put our own little spin on it in the world of Mafia. rankings where you have your boss, your underboss, your soldiers, and then your associates. And where does Nebraska factor into the college football tier? And it's an interesting discussion because of the brand history that's always top-notch versus the reality of not being good in the conference, not being good in college football when it comes to beating and competing in ranked games, and not being postseason bound the last 5 years. That can all shift this season for Nebraska. There's just uncertainty. And, a lot of things have ailed Nebraska. We talk about transition and resets and attrition, right? And just the move into the Big Ten, where Nebraska's not been what they were advertised to be, other than eyeballs in a brand. But has entitlement been an issue for Nebraska? And Coach Barnett associated running the football and being able to run the football with whether or not you have an entitlement problem. And to me, it comes down to toughness, right? That's what it's spilled out to me. When I think of Texas, I think of soft, and I think of, despite a great running back down there, I just think, country club attitude. Michigan, country club attitude, right? I mean, it's big and bad Michigan, it's big and bad Texas. Well, push comes to shove, they're not going to win the fight, right? And I've never, post Riley, I've never thought Nebraska was soft, right? I just thought it just, for whatever, it wasn't because of toughness that Nebraska would lose a game. I think it took a little while to get tough, and it took quite a bit of time to transition to be Big Ten tough. I don't think both teams had problems with that. I think Riley's teams morphed into that. There was a certain reputation out, especially when Nebraska played Iowa. You punch them in the mouth enough, they'll fold, right? And I don't think Nebraska can say a lot of things about the football program the last few years, but I don't think folding has been an issue, or quitting, or getting beat to a bloody pulp by a Wisconsin or an Iowa. They haven't won those games, but Nebraska has not been physically dominant. And we've said it, that the first time Nebraska really, really looked like a Big Ten offensive and defensive line, more so defensive line, we can even go back to the COVID year, right? On the line to scrimmage, game 1 against Ohio State, Nebraska wasn't just getting moved around like it was electric football. So I don't think toughness is an issue, but I do think running the football and being able to run the football is a great sign about where your program's at. Do you agree with some of the things he said on that? And that's what's going to be key about this year, right? As much as Nebraska will have weapons to throw the football and maybe a quarterback or two to pick from that can do that with this Whipple offense, man, when push comes to shove, it's going to be the O-line, and it's going to be bad weather, and it's going to be able to go get some short yardage conversions on a third down in November. I mean, to me, that's really what helps define success. That's what defines postseason. That's what defines tenure. And part of that is toughness. And I don't know that Nebraska is entitled. I think college football coaches to a team, to a league, have more of an uphill climb to break down some lofty self-opinions because of what recruiting is and has become, and even with the portal or NIL. I mean, kids are coming in with a lot of George Costanza wallets based on future bets and how the world is now with college football. You're compensated before you've proven it, and that's not going to be undone. But the really good ones find a way, like a Saban, to get their message across, to get buy-in, and then to go get performance.
Mm-hmm. And Just going back to this Nebraska being a potentially an entitled team, you hit a nail on the head with the Mike Riley teams. They felt like they had that country club mentality almost of, oh, we're at Nebraska, we've made it, now we're all right. And you said the same about Texas. I'd add USC to that list, at least USC within the past 10 years, of being those teams that are soft, punch them in the mouth a couple times, they'll fold because of that quote-unquote country club mentality. They're not willing to get nitty-gritty. And you're right, you've seen it in this Husker football team this year for the most part. I feel like, though, there is those moments where Nebraska, in key spots especially, you do see that shine through a little bit more. And I guess you're going back a few years now. I don't think we really saw it last season.
No, I mean, I don't. And this isn't, to me, the last couple of years, not per guy. There's guys that played during the Riley era that are tough physical football guys. Absolutely. But the overall, I guess, mentality wasn't good. And you saw deer in headlights, oh God, here comes Ohio State, right? With Frost and company, it's been more self-harm. It's not been toughness. It's not been weight room. It's not been trying to pay the price during the off season. I think all of that's good, but it's been a running game issue. Can you equate success to running? As much as college football's pass happy. Yeah, right? Wisconsin, Iowa, Sparty, Michigan, Ohio State, when they crank it out, they're all able to line up and kill you on the ground. And that'll be big this year. Let's transition to Gabe Ervin.
Oh, I was going to quickly, we did have a caller in.
Okay.
And I apologize if I butcher this. He didn't want to go on the air, didn't want to give his name, but he was dropping in and out, but he essentially said, the quotable thing from him was, most people don't have stupid written on their forehead, especially in the Big Ten territory, where it comes down to offensive line and defensive line play. So
is that do I need to scrub my forehead?
I'm unsure. I wasn't sure if he was taking a shot at you or not. So
yeah, well, have him call back. Get a better phone.
It could have been us for all I know.
No, that's fine. No, absolutely, and it does. It comes down to it, and.
Oh, we got a call back in.
That's sweet.
Maybe I butchered it.
maybe you butchered it. The miracle of 5G cell service, for sure. But yeah, it is offensive line. It's run game, and you have Gabe Ervin, kind of a forgotten guy just because of his injury, because of where things started for him. And God, that was sad to see down in Norman. And I pray that it turns around for him. And I'm excited to see a talent like Ervin thrive. Do we have an update?
Yeah, we got it right. We're good. He was in line with us, just saying.
Yeah.
Come down to offensive line defense.
No, absolutely. And yeah, you have a guy like Ervin. You have a guy like Ramir. You have Yant. What can he do with the offensive line? Good story, and give credit to Robin Washut on Teddy Prohaska, because Teddy's a guy that really, in limited time, pre-injury, really reset that offensive line in a positive light. Same with Turner Corcoran. He is better at the right side than the left. And in fairness to Turner, he's still a young player. In fairness to Teddy Prohaska, he's still a really young player. And that's asking a lot for both of these guys to play at a high level. They want to. I think they're working towards it. But that's a big ask, man, to have both come back healthy and then excel against opposing Big Ten defenses. Be really good, or be all conference good, or honorable mention good, because I think Nebraska's going to need that. I think they can do it, but that's a hard ask, as limited as their careers have been. But maybe they are prodigies. Maybe they are the exceptions. But you just don't see that a lot in the Big Ten on the lines of scrimmage.
Yeah, and maybe they'll make a jump here under the tutelage of Coach Raiola. But I don't think it's a stretch to say that these young guys along the offensive line living up to their expectations. If they can do that this season, it'll be the single most important factor in Nebraska's success in 2022. If guys like Prohaska can come back from the injury and even make a leap off the freshman year, kind of make that body change and just physicality change that's necessary in the college football game, and can Corcoran settle in at that right tackle spot and provide you with two bookend offensive tackles that are going to protect you on each side from these nasty defensive ends that you're going to see in the Big Ten.
And another third name is two more names, two guys that have more experience than a Teddy and a Turner. Benhart, Piper. I mean, those are two names. Those are you have Newely that has seen a number of snaps, and then settling in on the right guy at center because you're replacing a stud at center in Cam Jurgens.
Well, I think it comes down to these guys that we saw the hype coming in. We saw the rankings out of high school. Like those guys, the guys like Benhart and Prohaska, and the guys we've been excited for a long time, Banks. It's about them living up to their expectations that we had on them when they came to Nebraska.
Well, Dottie's going to get them ready, and we'll see where that goes. Under 75 days till kickoff. A Jock Doc's on the way.
Pardon the interruption, but I'd like to save you some money. I'm Brandon Vogel, managing editor of Hail Varsity. And I wanted to offer listeners of this podcast $10 off the price of an annual subscription. That means that you can get everything we produce, 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all the premium content we produce at hailvarsity.com. Just go to hailvarsity.com/subscribe and enter the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's hailvarsity.com/subscribe. Promo code GBR.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it at Hail Varsity Radio. Time for a Jock Doc Wednesday. Dr. Brandon Seifert with us, Nebraska Orthopedic Center. Dr. Brandon, we may have a new leader in the clubhouse for Jock Docs. Over the many years of Jock Docs, guess who again? It's Steven Strasburg.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? That poor guy, he's been on here so much.
He has, with shoulder and Tommy John and several stints to the IL, this time a 15-day IL stint with a stress reaction of the ribs. Tell me a little more with this, and I know he's got a thoracic outlet syndrome that this could be related to that ended his 2021 season.
Yeah, pretty interesting. It's definitely more of a rare / kind of unique type of injury. Not often that you hear of this. As we're thinking about kind of anatomy of this area, they kind of talked about that second and third rib region. So if you kind of feel along your chest wall, obviously you know where your ribs are, and you kind of take your fingers and kind of walk up towards your neck. That first and second rib is pretty high. It's kind of just right up underneath the collarbone or clavicle. That would be where that's located. You start asking the question, how in the world do you irritate that area? Why does he have kind of a stress reaction there? The biggest thing there is, one, can you have some irritation just from obviously that chronic repetitive throwing where that rotation that goes through that clavicle and having that shoulder maybe elevate up a little bit, you can get some kind of rub, some irritation there. That could be part of it. There's this pathology they describe as this thoracic outlet syndrome, and essentially what can happen there is where that first and second rib are located. Sometimes it'll have either some thickening in that rib, or it might actually have a little bit of an angulation where it angles more downward. And as it does that, there's some important kind of neurovascular structures that basically travel through that area. And if you put your arm in a certain position, in particular, if you reach up over your head or you're reaching out to your side, like in that kind of early cocking phase with throwing, you basically bring that neurovascular structures up into that region. And if you have a rib in that area that's pointing downward, then obviously that gets irritated, or that rib irritates the neurovascular structures. And that's really what that thoracic outlet syndrome would be reflective of. But again, usually it's more on the neurovascular side. The nerves, the vessels are having issues. It's not really on the kind of stress reaction side. So kind of a more unusual injury for this poor fella.
So it's just a lot of discomfort and pain when it gets time to be wind-up time for him on the hill.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's not a huge kind of structural issue in terms of, what are the odds this would, fracture off. create more of an issue. It really does become more of just kind of managing the symptoms kind of issue. Obviously, the treatment is rest at some point.
Dr. Brandon Seifert with us, a Jock Doc Wednesday, Nebraska Orthopedic Center. Stephen Strasburg, our topic, and he has a stress reaction of the ribs. Do you know anybody who has had this, either not even baseball, but just across any sports? And scale of pain, is it one of the more painful maladies out there that it's too hard to play through, it sounds like?
Yeah, great question, Chris. On one hand, the kind of stress reaction, and basically what a stress reaction is, I forgot to describe that, is essentially inflammation in the bone. It's kind of a precursor to a true stress fracture. But that aspect of it, stress reaction within the bone, especially in this area, and in the second and third rib, and first and second rib, very uncommon. I've never treated that myself personally. I've read about it before, but it's so rare. Going to the flip side of that, thoracic outlet syndrome, where you actually have this kind of impingement process going on where the neurovascular structures are coming through that canal. It's not common. I've seen it, and I've seen some athletes with it. But it's not fortunately not a super common thing. Like a lot of things, the symptoms are kind of all over the map. Most of the time, they're fairly mild. A lot of patients don't, really do much for it. It's obviously been around forever. I think there's been more research done into it. There's been more notoriety about it, so people know more about it. And so now we're, probably seeing it more just because patients are more aware of it. From a treatment perspective, yes, there are those out there that have really a lot of severe kind of nasty pain from it that's quite limiting. Maybe sleeping at night's a problem. Obviously, if you're doing an overhead sport, that can be pretty limiting too. And then you have to start talking about, is it a therapy issue that can make this better, which that does have some success, versus actually going in and having to basically open up that area, which can involve essentially taking out that tip or that end of that first rib that's causing the impingement.
Dr. Brandon, I looked back to about a year ago with Strasburg, and he was shut down. Last game he pitched before this week was June 1st, and he spent much of the time last season, July 28th is when he had his corrective thoracic outlet syndrome surgery, and we've touched on the nerves and arteries and veins near that neck and armpit region. So he had corrective surgery for the syndrome. Could that surgery have started this stress issue in the ribs? Are they related at all? Could one cleanup have caused problems in another area?
Yeah, Chris, that's a really good point. That would be, unfortunately, probably the more common of the two reasons, as opposed to overuse versus, something surgically iatrogenic maybe causing an issue. And so in this setting, there is a good chance of that from the surgery itself, whether it's just the scar tissue or whether it was by resecting part of that rib to basically open up that space, you may in fact, create some stability issues of the ribs in the area, and now they're maybe being stressed in a different way, which has led to, the inflammation or edema that has gone up into the bone. It's a really interesting question. Obviously, you take a guy that's, doing high-level sports like him, he's already putting a ton of stress through it. He's a surgery on top of it. So definitely I would think a combo of those two things.
Dr. Brandon, I just want to ask you, with how many times we've talked about Stephen Strasburg here in the past, is there anything to a guy being quote-unquote injury-prone? Is that a legitimate thing within the medical community?
Yeah, it's interesting. It can be in the sense of if you have somebody who maybe has, more elasticity within their joints, maybe a little bit of collagen defects, so they're more elastic in their joints, they're more prone to injury depending on what sport they're doing. So one, if they're doing like a high-level repetitive overhead sport like he's doing, and yeah, they're definitely a bit more injury-prone to that. Again, it's always walking that fine line, though, because you take some of those folks that are, we call them extra lax, they're kind of loose-jointed. How do you throw a baseball over 100 miles an hour? Well, you have loose joints, right? You can put your shoulder into place where the rest of us can't. And so you always are kind of walking that fine line. So I do think there probably are some structural abnormalities that occur that lend some patients to being more injury-prone. But I also think there's such a huge portion of those athletes out there, too, that either, A, don't have great technique, or B, maybe their biomechanics are not great. Let's take an exaggerated example of somebody who, it's the young female athlete whose knees basically touch in the middle, the knock-knee deformity. That's a horrible alignment to be into, and it puts a lot of stress on your ACL. They're going to be more prone to like an ACL tear. That's just one example. But biomechanics do play a big role in sports, and so again, if somebody doesn't have great mechanics, they're going to be more prone to having lots of injuries. That's kind of get the injury bug as you described. So I think it's probably a combo of genetics play a role, but also biomechanics as well.
Dr. Brandon Seifert with us, Nebraska Orthopedic Center at Jock Doc Wednesday. Dr. Brandon, great to get caught up. Thanks for giving us some info on Strasburg today.
Hey, you bet, guys. Y'all take care, and hope it's the last time we talk about Strasburg.
Like what you hear, high-quality radio and podcast is part of what we do at Hail Varsity. Hey, it's Chris Schmidt with Hail Varsity Radio, and I wanted to offer listeners of the Hail Varsity Radio Show podcast $10 off the price of an annual subscription. That means that you can get everything we do. 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all the premium content we produce at HailVarsity.com. Just go to HailVarsity.com/subscribe and enter in the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's HailVarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
Miss us?
Come here, brother. Give me a hug. Bring it in for the real thing.
We're on call for you. Catch the podcast at HailVarsity.com, the ESPN Lincoln app, or download them on iTunes.
Saddle up, partner.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Going to wind it down here, hour 2, almost finished up. Good stuff from Gary Barnett on entitlement and how you get that out of your football program. It's by running the ball. Mike Babcock was with us in hour 1. Mike Schuchart talked U.S. Open as his thoughts on the upcoming tournament that gets underway tomorrow. And Elijah's all geared up for his Avs. I am half tempted to find a way into the contest on Saturday night. And you said, what, $600 will get me third tier? Speaking of tiers, I mean, we spent a lot of time talking college football tiers. In Mafia terms, is Nebraska an underboss, a soldier, or an associate if you're a Mafia fan?
Well, okay, yeah, so $600 does in fact get you, and that's for game 1. I haven't checked game 2 prices yet because I have other plans. Like tonight, I could have taken the train or something and figured it out, made it out there, but I kid.
You're like, have fun, Schmidt. Figure out your own damn show. We are off to Denver tomorrow through back at some point Monday. We'll have the weekend edition live from Colorado. Junior's baseball game. He's in a wood bat tournament, so travel tomorrow and then games Friday. So Elijah is driving the bus.
Mm-hmm. I'll be in tomorrow as well as Friday. Mm-hmm. So Will Wilson with me tomorrow.
You figured out Friday yet?
We'll figure out who's in with me on Friday.
You gonna check with the Pride of Fairbury?
It's either going to be Connor Clark or Bill Dolman in with me on Friday. Okay. Saturday will be you and me. Is Cranack in for the Saturday morning show?
I will find out.
I'll see. And then Monday we are off on Hail Varsity Radio.
We'll have College World Series.
We'll have College World Series here, and I believe our affiliates in Kearney
we'll also have Grand Island, yes.
College World Series coverage on Monday, so got that to look forward to. But I will say, if you make it into the Stanley Cup game on Friday, you need to figure out a way to get a phone stand, set the phone up, and FaceTime me so I can experience the glory of the Stanley Cup.
Actually, we will just forget about it. We're just going to do a live StreamYard 10-minute show.
Saturday night?
If I go, yeah. We're supposed to go see the Rockies, and I know it's Husker night out at Coors Field. That's all well and good, but if the Stanley Cup finals are in town and we're in town, why not just go?
Well, it's expensive, but that's on you, yeah.
I'm not taking the kid or the wife.
Send him to Husker night.
Yeah, you go. Here's an $8 rock pile seat at Coors Field. I'm gonna go to a Stanley Cup final.
I will say I don't think you can go wrong with either of those choices. Coors Field has been described as
that's awesome.
It's been described as a bar that happens to have a baseball game going on the inside.
That's the plan.
It's a great way. And then Ball Arena is just I mean, it's a great venue, beautiful on the inside. It'd be Stanley Cup playoff or Stanley Cup Finals action, so you can't go wrong.
Yeah, and maybe the trick there is to see if there's anything floating around outside Ball Arena right after the first period ends.
Well, I mean, the two stadiums are pretty close to one another.
That's what
actually.
I thought.
Yeah,
I got to pull the baseball dads and see if they want to audible and try and get into a Stanley Cup Finals game.
That would be one of those lifetime experiences.
It is. Reminder to buckle up, hands on the wheel, eyes and mind straight ahead. The driver has one job: to drive. A message from the Nebraska Department of Highway Safety Office. Get the podcast, Hail Varsity Radio, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. Thanks.
A Hurrdat Media Production.